The fork scraped against the porcelain plate, a sound that seemed to echo in the suddenly suffocating silence of our dining room. I had cooked her favorite meal, rosemary chicken with roasted vegetables, just like I did every Thursday evening. For 12 years, I'd maintained these small rituals, these gestures of love that I thought mattered. "I regret being with you," Elena said, reaching for her wine glass. Her tone was casual, almost bored, as if she'd just mentioned that the chicken was slightly overcooked or that it might rain tomorrow. I froze, my own fork halfway to my mouth, and studied her face. There was no anger there, no tears, no emotion whatsoever. Just a blank expression that somehow hurt more than any scream ever could. "What did you say?" I asked, though I'd heard her perfectly. "You heard me, David." She took a sip of wine, her eyes not quite meeting mine. "I've been thinking about it for a while now. If I could go back, I wouldn't choose this. Wouldn't choose you." The words landed like physical blows, each one carefully aimed. I thought about the promotion I'd turned down 3 years ago because it would have meant relocating, and Elena's career was just taking off. I thought about the architecture firm I'd dreamed of starting with my college roommate, abandoned because we'd needed financial stability for the house Elena wanted. I thought about the countless evenings I'd spent listening to her work problems, celebrating her victories, holding her through her defeats. "Why?" The question came out quieter than I'd intended. She shrugged, that same indifferent gesture she'd give when I asked if she wanted Italian or Chinese takeout. "I don't know. I look at my friends' lives, their husbands, and I wonder what if I'd married someone more ambitious, more exciting. You're just so predictable, David. Every Thursday, rosemary chicken. Every Friday, movie night. Every Saturday, farmer's market at 9 a.m. It's suffocating." Those routines had been our traditions, built together over years. Or so I'd thought. Apparently, I'd been building them alone while she'd merely been tolerating them, counting down the days until she could finally voice her discontent. "I work 60-hour weeks at a job I hate to support your art gallery dream," I said, my voice still eerily calm. "I gave up my own business plans. I sold my motorcycle because you said it was dangerous. I moved across the country away from my family because your mother needed you close." "I never asked you to do any of that," Elena countered, finally looking at me. Her blue eyes were cold, distant. "You made those choices. Don't put that on me." She was right, in a way. She'd never explicitly asked. She'd just expected, and I'd delivered. Every single time. I looked down at my wedding ring, the simple gold band I'd worn for over a decade. It had a small dent on the side from where I'd accidentally hit it against a wrench while fixing her car last winter. She'd been grateful then, I thought. Or had she? Had I imagined the appreciation in her eyes, the quick kiss she'd given me before driving away? My chicken was getting cold. The wine in my glass sat untouched. Somewhere in the neighborhood, I could hear children laughing, a dog barking, the ordinary sounds of life continuing while mine crumbled in the space of a casual dinner conversation. "Okay," I said finally. Elena blinked. "Okay. That's all you have to say." "What would you like me to say, Elena? Should I beg? Should I promise to be more exciting, more ambitious, less predictable?" I slowly pulled the ring from my finger. "You regret choosing me. I heard you." I placed my wedding ring gently beside Elena's plate, right next to her half-finished wine glass. The soft clink of gold against porcelain seemed impossibly loud. For a moment, neither of us moved. The ring sat there between us like a tiny golden verdict, reflecting the warm light from the chandelier above. The chandelier I'd spent an entire weekend installing because Elena said it would be perfect for dinner parties we'd host. We'd hosted exactly 2. "What are you doing?" Elena's voice had changed. The casual indifference was gone, replaced by something sharper. "Uncertain. I'm freeing you from your regret." I stood up, pushing my chair back carefully, quietly. No drama. No slammed doors or thrown dishes. You won't have to wonder what if anymore. "David, wait," she reached across the table, but I'd already stepped back. "I didn't mean, let's talk about this. We just did." I picked up my plate and walked to the kitchen, scraping the uneaten food into the trash. Behind me, I heard her chair scrape against the hardwood floor. "You're being ridiculous. People say things they don't mean when they're frustrated. I had a terrible day at the gallery, and I just..." "You weren't frustrated, Elena. You were honest." I rinsed my plate with methodical precision. "Maybe for the first time in years, you were completely honest with me." That night, I slept in the guest room. Not because she asked me to, but because I chose to. The mattress was firmer than I remembered, the sheets crisp and cold. I stared at the ceiling, tracing the familiar crack that ran from the corner toward the center. Another repair I'd been meaning to get to, another item on an endless list of things I'd planned to do for a home that had never really felt like mine. My phone buzzed. A text from Elena. "Can we please talk like adults?" I didn't respond. What else was there to say? She'd spoken her truth. Now I was choosing mine. The next morning, I woke up at 5:30, my usual time. But instead of my typical routine, making coffee, reading the news, starting breakfast for both of us, I went for a run. Something I hadn't done since before we'd married. When Elena mentioned she found it odd that I'd leave her alone in the mornings. The pre-dawn air was cool and sharp in my lungs. My muscles protested, out of practice. But with each step, I felt something loosen in my chest. Some tight knot I hadn't known was there beginning to unravel. When I returned, Elena was in the kitchen, still in her silk nightgown. She'd made coffee, or attempted to. The kitchen was a disaster. Coffee ground spilled across the counter, a broken mug in the sink, burnt toast smoking in the toaster. "I was trying to make you breakfast," she said, looking embarrassed. "I wanted to. I thought we could start over. Pretend last night didn't happen." But it did happen. I poured myself water from the tap, drinking it while standing. "And I don't want to pretend anymore." "So what? You're just giving up. 12 years of marriage, and you're walking away over one comment." Her voice rose, emotion finally cracking through. "That's not the David I married." "Maybe the David you married stopped existing somewhere between giving up his dreams and losing himself completely in yours." I set down the glass. "I need to shower and get to work." "David, please." She grabbed my arm as I passed. Her touch, once electric, once comforting, felt like just that, a touch. Nothing more. "I love you. You know I do." "Do you?" I looked at her directly. "Or do you love the security I provide? The stability? The convenient husband who never rocks the boat?" She didn't answer. Couldn't answer. We both knew the truth. At work, I sat through meetings on autopilot. My colleague, Raymond, noticed. "You okay, man? You seem different." "I think I might be," I said, surprising myself. For the first time in a long time, I think I might actually be okay. That evening, I didn't come home at my usual 6:30. Instead, I went to a bar, not to drink myself into oblivion, but to sit and think. To remember who David had been before he'd become Elena's husband, before he'd folded himself into something smaller, more manageable, more convenient. When I finally walked through our front door at 10 p.m., Elena was pacing the living room, phone clutched in her hand. "Where were you? I've been calling for hours. I thought something happened to you." "I was out," I said simply. I didn't realize I needed to report my whereabouts. Her face went pale. Because she understood what I was really saying. The rules had changed. I had changed. The house became a battlefield of silence. Not the comfortable quiet of contentment, but the heavy, suffocating silence of two people living separate lives under the same roof. Elena tried everything in her arsenal. Tears, anger, seduction, guilt. I remained unmoved, not out of cruelty, but out of self-preservation. A week after the dinner, I contacted my old college roommate, James. We'd planned to start an architectural firm together, specializing in sustainable housing design. That dream had died quietly when I'd married Elena, buried under the weight of practical concerns and her subtle disapproval of risky ventures. "David. Man, it's been forever." James's voice boomed through the phone. "What's going on?" I want to talk about that business plan we drew up. Is the opportunity still there? The silence on the other end lasted just long enough to make me nervous. Then, hell yes. I've been waiting for you to call for 10 years. When can you meet? I took a personal day, my first in 3 years, and drove to James's office in the city. The old excitement hummed through my veins as we pored over updated plans, market analysis, potential clients. This was what I'd sacrificed. This was what I'd buried. You seem different, James observed over lunch. More focused. Less. I don't know, defeated. I'm remembering who I am, I told him. Before I became someone's regret. At home, Elena noticed the change immediately. I came in energized, alive in a way I hadn't been in years. She tried to engage me about my day, but I kept my answers brief. This part of my life, this rekindling of my dreams, was mine alone. You're shutting me out, she accused one evening, standing in the doorway of the home office I'd reclaimed. I'd spent years letting her use it for her gallery work from home days while I'd worked at the kitchen table. No, I corrected, not looking up from the architectural sketches spread before me. I'm just not including you in everything anymore. There's a difference. This is childish, David. You're punishing me. I finally met her eyes. I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference there, too. She tried a different approach that night. I was reading in bed, my book, my side of the bed that I'd reclaimed, when she emerged from the bathroom wearing the black lace lingerie I'd bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. She'd never worn it, claimed it wasn't her style. Now here she stood, trying to weaponize intimacy. I miss you, she said softly, moving toward the bed with practiced seduction. My body responded to her presence. 12 years of conditioning doesn't disappear overnight. She was beautiful, objectively so, with her long dark hair and curves in all the right places. But as she leaned down to kiss me, I turned my head. Don't, I said quietly. David, please. Let me show you how much you mean to me. Her hand trailed down my chest. I caught her wrist gently but firmly. Elena, if you're trying to seduce me back into compliance, it won't work. I'm not some dog you can pet when you're worried he might run away. Tears sprang to her eyes, real ones this time, I thought. I made a mistake. I was stupid and cruel, and I don't know how to fix this. Tell me how to fix this. You can't, I said, not unkindly. Some things, once broken, can't be fixed. They can only be replaced. She pulled back as if I'd struck her. You want a divorce? I don't know what I want yet. But I know I'm done being taken for granted. I'm done sacrificing everything while you sacrifice nothing. I'm done being your safety net while you dream about someone better. I never said I wanted someone better. You didn't have to. It was in every eye roll when I'd suggest a date night. Every sigh when I'd talk about my day. Every time you'd light up for everyone else but barely manage a smile for me. I set my book aside. You trained me to be invisible, Elena. Congratulations. But now that I'm remembering how to be visible again, you don't get to decide if I should fade back into the wallpaper for your comfort. She left the room, the lingerie a failed gambit. I heard her crying in the bathroom, and part of me, the old David, wanted to go to her, to comfort her, to make it better. But the new David, the one who was slowly emerging from years of suppression, stayed exactly where he was. The next morning, I started looking at apartments. 3 weeks after that fateful dinner, I signed a lease on a small loft downtown. It was nothing fancy, an open floor plan with exposed brick, large windows overlooking the city, and enough space for a drafting table. It was mine. Completely, entirely mine. I didn't tell Elena immediately. Instead, I began the quiet work of separation. Opening a new bank account, changing my direct deposit, sorting through our possessions and mentally cataloguing what was mine, what was hers, what we'd bought together. That last category was surprisingly small. When I finally told her, we were in the living room. She was scrolling through her phone, half watching some reality show I'd never understood. I turned off the TV. I leased an apartment. I'll be moving out this weekend. The phone clattered to the floor. What? No. David, no. We can work through this. I'll do better, I promise. You'll what, Elena? Pretend to appreciate me for a few weeks. A few months. Until things get comfortable again and we slide right back to where we were. I shook my head. I don't want someone who has to work at appreciating me. I want someone who naturally does. I do appreciate you. She was on her feet now, frantic. I appreciate everything you do, everything you've done. I was stupid and careless with my words. People make mistakes. It wasn't a mistake. It was the truth. I kept my voice level, calm. This wasn't about anger anymore. It was about clarity. And once I heard it, I couldn't unhear it. You regret choosing me. You look at other people's lives and wish you'd made different choices. That's not something you can take back with apologies and promises. So you're just going to throw away 12 years. Our marriage, our home, our life together. You threw it away, I corrected gently. The moment you said those words, you threw it away. I'm just acknowledging what you already knew. This marriage has been dead for a while. We've just been going through the motions. She sank onto the couch, face in her hands. When she looked up, her makeup was streaked with tears. I can't lose you. I don't know how to be without you. You'll learn, I said. The same way I'm learning how to be myself again. That week, Elena tried everything. She cooked elaborate meals, badly, but the effort was there. She suggested couples counseling, a vacation, a renewal of our vows. She bought me gifts, a new watch, tickets to a concert I'd mentioned wanting to see years ago, books she'd never paid attention to me reading before. But the more she tried, the clearer it became that she wasn't fighting for our marriage. She was fighting against change, against discomfort, against the unknown. She wanted me back because I was familiar, safe, convenient, not because she truly valued who I was. The night before I moved out, Elena came to the guest room where I'd been sleeping. She wore one of my old t-shirts, her hair down, face bare of makeup. In the dim light from the hallway, she looked younger, vulnerable, more like the woman I'd fallen in love with at 25. Can I sleep here tonight? She asked quietly. Just sleep. I'm not trying to seduce you or manipulate you. I don't want to be alone yet. Please. I hesitated, then nodded. She slipped under the covers, maintaining careful distance between us. For a long time, we lay there in silence, two people who'd shared a bed for over a decade now separated by 12 inches and an impossible chasm. I really did love you, she whispered into the darkness. I still do. I just forgot how to show it. I know, I replied. And I did know. Love wasn't the problem. It had never been the problem. The problem was respect, appreciation, partnership, all the things that should have come with love but somehow hadn't. Will you ever forgive me? She asked. Yes, I said truthfully. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It just means I'm not carrying anger anymore. She was quiet for a moment. Then, do you think, if I had realized sooner, if I had told you I appreciated you more, would we have made it? Maybe. Or maybe we were always heading here, and that dinner just accelerated the timeline. I turned to look at her profile in the darkness. You said you regretted being with me. But Elena, I regret losing myself in you. And that's not something either of us can fix by trying harder or loving better. Some losses are permanent. She reached for my hand under the covers, and I let her take it. One last moment of intimacy, not physical but emotional. A goodbye to what we'd been, what we'd tried to be, what we'd ultimately failed to become together. When I woke up, she was gone, the bed cold beside me. Moving day was crisp and clear, the kind of autumn morning that promised new beginnings. I'd hired movers, not because I had that much stuff, but because I didn't want this to drag out. Raymond came to help, bringing coffee and strategic silence. He understood what his presence meant. Support, not questions. Elena stayed in our bedroom while the movers worked. I caught glimpses of her through the doorway, sitting on the bed, staring at her hands, occasionally wiping her face. Part of me wanted to go to her, but I knew that would only prolong the inevitable. Clean breaks heal better than ragged ones. As I was doing a final walkthrough, making sure I hadn't forgotten anything, Elena appeared in the hallway. She'd composed herself, dressed in jeans and a sweater, hair pulled back. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. "I found this," she said, holding out a small wooden box I'd forgotten existed. "Your grandfather's compass. You'd want this, right?" I took it, our fingers briefly touching. The compass had been my grandfather's during his Navy service. He'd given it to me before he died, told me it would help me find my way when I was lost. I'd stored it away years ago, forgotten in the rush of marriage and compromise and gradually losing my direction. "Thank you," I said. "David," she started, then stopped. What was left to say? We'd said it all in the weeks of silence and attempted reconciliation. "I hope you find what you're looking for." "I hope you do too," I replied. "I really do, Elena. I hope you find someone who excites you, who meets your expectations, who makes you glad you chose them. You deserve that. Everyone does." "Even you?" she asked quietly. "Especially me." The movers finished loading the last box. Raymond was waiting by his car, giving us space. I picked up my final bag, a leather satchel that had been my father's, and turned to face my wife one last time. "I'm not going to say goodbye," Elena said, her voice cracking slightly. "That feels too final." "Then don't," I replied. "But Elena, understand something. I'm not leaving because I hate you or want to punish you. I'm leaving because I finally love myself enough to walk away from someone who doesn't. That's not cruelty. That's survival." I walked out of that house without looking back. No dramatic door slam, no final cutting words. Just a quiet exit, dignified and deliberate. In my car, I sat for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, feeling the weight of the wedding ring that was no longer there. My phone buzzed. A text from James. "Office space secured. Ready when you are, partner." I smiled, the first genuine smile I'd felt in weeks, and pulled out of the driveway. In my rearview mirror, I could see Elena standing in the doorway, watching me leave. But I didn't slow down. I didn't stop. The loft apartment felt empty but promising. I spent the weekend unpacking, arranging furniture, setting up my drafting table by the large windows. That night, alone in my new space, I opened my grandfather's compass. Inside the lid, I'd forgotten, was an engraving. "True north isn't a direction. It's a decision." I was deciding. Every day, in small ways and large ones, I was deciding to move toward myself rather than away from it. To honor my dreams rather than bury them. To accept that being loved wasn't enough if I had to erase myself to earn it. 3 months later, James and I landed our first major client. 6 months after that, Elena filed for divorce. The proceedings were civil, almost friendly. We'd both moved on, me toward something, her away from something. The difference mattered. At the final divorce hearing, we sat on opposite sides of the courtroom. When it was over, when we were officially no longer married, she approached me in the hallway. "You look good," she said. "Happy?" "I am," I replied truthfully. I'd started running regularly, joined a recreational soccer league, reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with. I was building a life that was mine. "How are you?" "I'm figuring it out." She smiled, small but genuine. "I started therapy. Turns out I have some things to work on." "Don't we all?" I said. "David." She hesitated. "Thank you for walking away. I know that sounds strange, but you taught me something important that night. About taking people for granted. About what happens when you forget to appreciate what you have. I hope your next relationship benefits from that lesson," I said, meaning it. "I hope your next relationship appreciates the man I failed to." She extended her hand. "Goodbye, David." I shook it, feeling the finality settle over us like gentle snow. "Goodbye, Elena." I walked out of that courthouse into brilliant sunshine. My phone buzzed, a text from a woman I'd met at a gallery opening last week, asking if I wanted to grab coffee. I'd said yes, cautiously, not looking for anything serious but open to possibilities. That evening, I sat on my loft's balcony, looking out over the city lights. I thought about that dinner, about Elena's casual cruelty, about the ring I'd placed beside her plate. I thought about how close I'd come to spending the rest of my life invisible, unappreciated, slowly disappearing into someone else's shadow. Love taken for granted doesn't disappear with fireworks and drama. It doesn't end with shouting matches or thrown dishes. Sometimes, it just quietly walks away, taking back its dignity, reclaiming its voice, remembering that it deserves better. I'd walked away. And in doing so, I'd walked toward myself. That was enough.